you don't want to sit there and play solitaire. You can discover new things. Hi there, Steve Kaufman here again, and today I want to talk about seniors. Seniors not only can learn languages, they should learn languages, and I'm going to tell you why. So if you enjoy these videos, please subscribe, click on the bell for notifications. If you follow me on a podcast, please leave a review. I appreciate it. Please notice that I've changed my background here. I've now got this wood paneling, and I've sort of slid my bookshelf off to the side. People ask me if it's a real bookshelf. No, it's not. It's just a curtain. I've slid it off to the side, and now I'm working off this wooden paneling. So the reason I'm talking about seniors learning languages is because I had an email from a good friend of mine who plays hockey with me. He's one of our group of hockey players that have been playing old-timers hockey since we were, over 40. So 30 years, 35 years. He's my age. He's 76 or 77 or 75, one of the two. And he says, Steve, I want to learn Japanese. Can I get on your system? I said, sure, absolutely. Now, some background. He has been involved with Japan. He coached hockey in Japan, in Sendai for a year, and he's very fond of Japan. And so here he is, 76 years old. He's going to start learning Japanese. He can say, the usual konnichiwa, ohayo gozaimasu, but he can't really speak Japanese. And I thought to myself, good for him. And here I am, I'm 76. And I'm learning my Farsi and my Arabic, both standard and Egyptian Arabic. And I've got sort of Turkish waiting in the wings. And if I ever get to a proper level in those, then I might explore Indonesian, or I might explore, Urdu is sort of a transition from Persian, or I might go into Hindi and tackle one of their writing systems. Or some other language, Swahili. I haven't learned an African language. I might tackle an African language. All of that I have in front of me. Next year, the year after, those languages aren't going anywhere. I'm under no pressure to learn those languages. I don't need them for my job. But it's just so much fun to contemplate that I can go and learn these languages and, discover, like I'm now discovering, especially with the Persian, because I've got these wonderful courses on Persian history that Sahara has prepared for Link, which I enjoy going over repeatedly and finally getting a sense of when the Sasanian dynasty was, and when the Safavid dynasty was, and the Mongols and the Turks and the various influence of Rome and fighting with Parthian Empire, I guess they called it in English, and so forth and so on. So as a senior, here you are, you could be saying, well, I've lived most of my life, I'm kind of, you don't want to sit there and play solitaire. You can discover new things, particularly now with COVID, where it's not so easy to go traveling around. You can travel through your language learning as a senior. And I don't think, as a senior, certainly I don't say I'm going to learn this language and then that language, but I know that there are a lot of languages there to learn. And every language I have learned has brought me so much. It's like being at a feast where there's just this endless sort of table with dishes, and you can eat as many as you want and just keep eating and enjoying. Of course, we know that for seniors, it's very good for their brains. So even if, say, my friend, who hasn't really been a language learner like I've been a language learner all his life, so maybe it's like the capacity to learn languages is not as developed as it is in my brain because I've been doing it more. But it's like if you haven't used a muscle, you have to slowly start using it. Small steps, gradually build up the strength. And I think the same is true with language learning. Regardless of your age, he might find it a little more difficult because he's not as confident, he hasn't done it before. But I know that anyone, if they, gain that experience with a new language, listening and reading, they can learn. And of course, especially today, with the range of content that's available online. So if we take, for example, he could watch a Japanese series on Netflix and not understand a thing. except that there would be subtitles. And through the subtitles, he would have a sense of participating in an aspect of Japanese culture. That is very stimulating. That encourages you, entices you to do more. Now, in order to get to the point where he could understand those movies, or even some of them, and which would then improve his Japanese, he has to invest in the sort of beginner stuff, like the mini stories. So there is a progression from repetitive listening to relatively simple material to get yourself to a point where you can derive more from these movies. But that's all there for you to do. Those are all activities that as a senior you can commit 1, 2, 3 hours a day to doing, and it takes you on this sort of endless journey of discovery, initially for one language, and that can be a few years, I can tell you from experience with Arabic and Persian. And if you ever get tired of that journey, then you can embark on another journey. So not only is it, and I've done videos before where I talk about age not being an obstacle, but it's more than that. I think for seniors particularly, who are looking for meaningful things to do. Not many of them have their meaningful activities, and I'm not saying that language learning is the only meaningful activity. And of course there's physical activity, and there's social activity, and family activity, and there's all kinds of things that can give seniors a very full life. But I think in particular language learning is something that has a lot of benefits. I'm not going to get into whether it delays potential, Alzheimer's. There's all these theories that it stimulates the brain and protects it from dementia and so forth and so on. I don't know if that's true. It's an added benefit. But I think the bigger thing is that it's just such a rewarding thing to do, something that seniors not only can do, but should do, in my opinion. And I'll leave you with a couple of videos that I did on the whole issue of age and language learning. But again, seniors not only can learn, but should learn languages. Thank you for listening. Bye for now.